Hi everyone,
Hey.
welcome to episode 4 of Web Analytics TV, our rebranding,
Yes.
I think. Nick and I are going to try and answer your question about Google Analytics, Web Analytics, and anything else. So please continue to go submit your questions on our moderator page, because that's exactly where all these are coming from. And if you don't have a question, go there and vote for the questions that you would like to us to answer, because we get more questions than we can actually answer. So please continue to do that. With that, I'll turn it over to Nick to ask the first question.
So here's the first question, and that's from Shailendra Dubey from Indore, India, where I think we have a lot of fans.
Yes.
So in all traffic sources sections, currently there are 3 sections: direct traffic, referring sites, and search engines. Is there any way to check traffic from social media sites rather than creating some filters and advanced segments?
Yeah. At the moment, actually, there isn't any way. I think that we have a new social media website popping up every 3 hours in the world, so it's kind of hard to keep track of this amorphous and evolving space. So the best way is that, unlike many other web analytics tools, Google Analytics allows you to do advanced segmentation on the fly. There's really no limitation.
Right.
You can create it, you can go back in history and look at your data. So the best thing, even more than using filters actually, is just to create a segment, and as a new website pops up that you would classify as social, simply create an advanced segment and go apply it in the report that you care about, and bam, there you have the data.
You know, one thing to add to that is that you can actually define campaign tracking parameters. So you can say, in the link that points to your site, UTM medium equals social. And so for some of these URL shortening services, you can actually add the campaign tracking parameters in them, so when somebody clicks the URL, the parameters appear on the final page, and that way it's another way to track them as well.
Exactly. Actually, kl.am I think is another URL shortener that's doing that. So many of them, and in that case they'll show up under the campaign reports.
Right.
Okay, cool. So Nick, the next question is for you. One question which always strikes my mind, many times in Google Analytics reports, we see keywords recorded by visits, bounce rate average, time on site. But visits are recorded, but those other metrics are not recorded. In some other cases, for keywords, there is all of the other metrics, but no visits. So in some cases for a keyword, let's say I might see 0 visits, but I see the other pieces of data. In other cases, I'm seeing a visit, but perhaps not the other pieces of data. So when are the rare exceptions when that does happen, Nick?
Yeah, so I think the question really, and we actually see this a lot, is when you look at AdWords and analytics, the way that we calculate AdWords clicks and visits in Google Analytics is different. And so when you're looking at keywords from AdWords, you might see clicks and cost data but 0 visits, which is weird.
I see.
And then if you see visits, you might see 0 clicks in different metrics. So they might not align. And that's actually a pretty common problem. And you know, the challenge that we have is the way clicks are measured and visits are measured are very different. And in the reports, we have to make them align. So in clicks, whenever you click an ad, that increments the number of clicks from that source. For visits, we define a visit as when the browser closes or 30 minutes of inactivity, right?
Yes.
So what that means is you can come to a site, leave for 20 minutes and return, and you're still in the same visit.
Same session.
So what happens then when you click an ad, you come to a site, leave, click another ad, and come back to the site? Well, we have to make the visits, it's the same visit, but 2 clicks.
Right.
So the visits align, and the first click gets the keyword in a visit, but the second click gets 0 visit. It's an orphaned keyword source.
Exactly. So I guess this happens in those rare cases where somebody might search. Let's say they'll search for Web Analytics Avinash, and they'll come to my blog, and they'll see maybe they land in the wrong page. They go back, and then now maybe they type in Web Analytics Engagement, and now they're landing on the right page and they stay. So in the rare cases where people flip-flop back and forth between search engines and the site in a very rapid fashion, then this might occur. Because I guess a challenge for AdWords and Google Analytics is that it has to give that credit to one of the clicks. And then if it happens in the same session, this occurrence can happen. So that's the behavior that's happening in your case. So good question.
Yep. So another question for you, Avinash. And this one is from Micah FK from Fremont. Is there a reason why Google Analytics only displays search keywords under the AdWords section, under the traffic sources menu, and not the actual search query, as well as without having to create a profile folder?
Yeah, I wish I could ask somebody this question, because this is a wonderful question, and I wish that it would show the actual search query. This is a request from our users that we've had for a very long time. and we would love to send this back to the team, Mika, with your endorsement, and hopefully in the future you'll see it. So we're going to send this on to our team. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I have a question for you, Nick. I'm using parentheses, question mark, parentheses, Q equal gobbledygook, something funny, to record actual search keywords from PPC. A great connection between those two.
Right.
However, this contains a lots of special character gunk which I have to remove in Excel. Please, could a new URL decode parentheses filter be added to Google Analytics? It looks like another feature request.
Another feature request. It's something I think it sounds really good. We'll pass it on to the rest of the product team, and we'll evaluate.
There you go. So you're helping us create a better version of Google Analytics right here.
Right here, live. Great. Okay, so the next question is for you, from Phil from London. Does Google Organic Index use the URLs stored in Google Analytics, assuming data sharing is ticked? If yes, does this mean that using GA will help get pages indexed faster for SEO?
So let me look right into the camera and have a dramatic pause and say no. Pause again. No, it does not. Google Analytics data, even if you are doing anonymous or data sharing, is not used by the SEO team in any way. Complete differences. You can see how this would be quite suboptimal because most websites in the world don't use Google Analytics, and there's it would put them at a disadvantage in any way. So let me have a dramatic pause again. Say no. There is no connection between Google Analytics and SEO and indexing and faster or slower. No, I'm really sorry, but it's very, very key. It's a great question, but there should be no confusion. This does not happen, and it will not happen.
Great answer.
Okay, so Nick, here's one of my favorites. I love site search. So here's a question. Suppose that I've added custom search engine from Google to my website, the co-op search engine. How can I track search results from the custom search engine through site search in GA? So there are two cases here, Nick, that I would love for you to address. In one case, what happens in the co-op search engine, I had it on my blog, the free version where somebody searches, it actually takes them to google.com where the results are displayed, and then kind of comes back to my site. So that's case one. Case two is where you can implement a co-op search engine, the purchased version, it's $100 a year, I think, where all the results are displayed inline on your URL on your website. So in those two cases, in each case, can you track, and how would you do it?
That's a great question to ask. So let's just talk about how the custom search engine, the internal site search works. So what it uses is what we call get parameters or query parameters. And when there's a certain parameter like Q equals a search term, Google Analytics will pull that out and say this is actually coming from the search engine page, and it'll do all the calculations for it. And that's how you configure it in the administration screen. So as long as you can find a way to put the query parameter on the page that the search results are on, Google Analytics will pick that up and then create all the reports. So for example, if it's on your page, there's a way to create virtual page views where you can add the query parameter and the term and so forth and fake that and make it look like it works. And so if you can get the data into a format that analytics can read, then we can do the reports.
So in case number one, actually, you cannot track using Google Analytics or any other web analytics tool because the person is leaving your website, going to another site, coming back to your website. And what happens on the third-party site? Well, that's not tagged by you, so Google Analytics or Omniture Web Trends, really anybody wouldn't know. In the second case, Nick is absolutely right. Easy to track, specify parameter in the admin settings, and sing happy birthday, and there's your data. One more for you, Nick, and this is how do I replace all instances of a plus sign with white space? I'm only able to replace first and not all the instances. That's a good one.
It's a great question. So what happens is in some of the keywords report, you might have like tennis plus shoes for tennis shoes.
I see.
And so what happens is in Google Analytics, we have this thing called a profile filter. And what you can do is for any of the fields of data that we collect, you can change the values in there. You can search and replace as a profile filter, and you can search for the plus and replace it with the space. So that way, when we start processing the data, the end result doesn't have the pluses. So it's a simple matter of setting up a profile filter.
Okay. One more for you, Nick, actually. Can we have some information on regex implementation within analytics, please? What can and can't be used in both input and output sections of advanced filters? This one comes from Andy in the UK.
Oh, great. Great question, Andy. Profile filters are pretty complicated but very powerful if you understand what they do. They pretty much allow you to manipulate any of the data we collect before it gets processed. So like in the previous question, we could actually replace the plus with a space. The advanced filter allows you a lot more flexibility. You can use there's two fields, a field A and a field B, that you can use to create expressions, and then there's an output that you can use to manipulate data and then rewrite any of the fields that we process. So for example, in field A, you can use any regular expressions, and you can use parentheses to create a back reference. And so when you're in the output field, you can reference the back reference by saying money, the field name, for example, A, and then the number of reference. So money A1 will actually go back and say for anything that matched in the first parentheses in field A, and put that data there.
Okay.
And so what this allows you to do is rewrite different fields. It's pretty expressive, yeah.
Okay, so perhaps what we'll do is we'll have Nick write a little explanation in the blog post that contains this video, and we'll also try and link out to a help article, because regex is actually very powerful.
Yep.
They can do a lot of wonderful things.
Yep.
So maybe you could link out to
Sure.
a couple of tutorials and things
I think
like that.
our friend Robin Strife actually put a whole series together on
There
how
you
to
go.
use it.
We'll link out to Robin. Hi, Robin.
Okay. Yep.
And that'll be great.
Great.
Okay, good.
Great. So question for you, Avinash. And this is Rudolph from the North Pole. Very timely. He's getting into his analytics to see where they put the right packages. I need to write a report for my boss which shows user engagement. Are there any guides or templates on the best way to present this? Also, is it possible to segment users by behavior? For example, split the good and bad visitors, right? He needs to know where to send lumps of coal versus packages. It's a great question.
Thank you, Rudolph. I have to tell you, this is a bit of a high horse for me, because I have...
So how do you feel about engagement?
I know. Well, to be serious for a second, actually, I really do think that we use the term engagement quite loosely. I think, or we play fast and loose with it. And I am sort of on the record saying that engagement is not a metric; it's an excuse. And I have like a whole chapter in my new book on that particular thing. So it's important to realize that quick tutorial. Okay, it's important to realize that there's two things you can measure with web analytics clickstream tools. Even if you think about engagement, which is the degree of engagement, if you will. So you can measure how many pages somebody saw, how much time they spent, how often they came, things like that. But remember, what you cannot measure using clickstream tools is the kind of engagement, which was that at the end of 5 pages that Nick saw, was that a good engagement, he was happy, and that I only saw 2 pages, but I was happy and Nick was sad. I mean, there's really no way for you to measure the kind of engagement. So just be aware that, don't use the term engagement. Say, engaged visits are people who visit our site 3 times or more. Call it visitor loyalty. People who sit through the entire movie. Say time on site more than X minutes or Y minutes. So try not to use the term engagement with users. Now that said, it's kind of funny that you're asking about good or bad visitors. Nick actually has written a wonderful blog post that takes actually traffic from my account for Facebook and Twitter and helps me understand which traffic is of more value. Let's not call it good or bad. So Nick, you want to talk a little bit? Are you using the API for that, I think?
Right, so we put an example up. You can read it on the blog. We'll link to it. And it goes out into the API, and it looks at different segments of traffic. It looks at all the visits, people from Facebook and Twitter, and then it grabs a bunch of metrics for each of those segments, and then plots little charts that allow you to compare on pages per visit, bounce rate, typical metrics that we call engagement metrics.
Sure. And
allows you to compare between the sources across a variety of them. So the code for that is open source, and you can use it in your own organization.
And I've seen the visualization. It's very slick. It's very simple, and you could easily slap it on a PowerPoint slide and present it to hippos, and I'm sure they would be impressed. So that was
Definitely.
a great job, Nick.
Great.
Okay.
Here's a question for you. So Google Analytics has many reports, and not all of them provide instant insight. One report that never brought me any interesting info is the content drill down report. What insights can I get based on this report?
Oh, this is from my buddy Daniel in Israel. Okay, so Daniel, I think this is actually pretty. To be perfectly honest, I think there are reports in Google Analytics that I wished would just go away.
Right.
I think over time, like every web analytics tool, I think Google Analytics accumulated some report. I wish there were no report on screen resolutions. Like I don't want it. But I actually think that the content drill down report is probably not one of the useless ones. And I say that, Daniel, because actually what the content drill down report is misnamed actually. What it should be called is a directory report. And so what it does, it takes the directory structure. So let's say Kaushik.net/Avinash/2009/month or Kaushik.net/Avinash/analytics/competitive intelligence things. I have all the data in directories. So, and I have a dynamic website. And what this particular report does is for people who have clean websites with well-defined directory structures, it actually helps them understand which content in which directory is being consumed more or less. So it's another way to sort of drill down into your data. So I was analyzing a hospital's website the other day, and using this report, I was very quickly able to figure out that nobody cared about their newsletters and health information. What people cared about was their online webinars, because the directory structure was so clean.
Right.
Bam! In 2 seconds, I could see where the visits are happening the most. So this is not. This is a useful report for those kinds of websites. If you're a truly dynamic website, this report is not useful for you.
You need to have a clear directory structure to make this report valuable, and that could be the reason why you haven't.
Exactly, and then you are super smart and you have flexible, no directory structures and stuff.
Right.
This probably is not going to be the right one for you.
Right.
Here's a question for you, Nick, from No Zero in New Jersey. I'm an e-commerce site. I want to use Google Analytics. To have an affiliate account. Can we delete the GA cookie or modify it based on the date it was dropped? Delete and UTM_XYZ if XYZ was the source more than 30 days ago. So he's trying to do something really complicated.
Right, so it sounds like what he's trying to do is change the definition of visitor, or change the duration of what we typically call for a visit.
I see.
And so forth. Generally, it's bad to change one metric on a condition, specifically visit, because it's tied to so many other metrics.
Right.
So if one segment of users has a different definition of visits, and all the different reports that rely on the averages are all going to be weird and off. So just keep that in mind.
Even actually the loyalty report, which is my beloved report, it shows the distribution of the number of visits. If you just do this selectively, it would screw up that report as well. But there's no averages, distributions, and it's one of my favorites. It'll just get screwed up.
Now that being said, we have just released 3 new methods to change the cookie behavior of the visitor, the session, and the campaign. And that's across all visits, visitors, and campaigns. And you can use that method. We'll put a link to the definitions of those, and that will change the length that the cookie persists for each of those. And that's something that you might want to take a look at.
So there is a way, to summarize, there is a way, but use with caution.
Right.
Okay, good.
Definitely. Great. So here's a question for you, Avinash. Twitter visits are shown as referral. Please, can GA.js be updated to automatically change those to social? Also, do you think this conversion hierarchy should also be updated? For example, PPC manual to organic to social to referral to direct.
These are great questions. These are great suggestions, Phil. I actually personally am not sure if we're quite ready to have a social segment. It's just the evolution is happening too fast.
Too many of the sites.
Exactly. So these are great suggestions. We'll keep them in mind. As we touched earlier in the video, you can easily create a custom segment that will allow you to group the data and look at it the way that you would like to. For now, I humbly believe that that's a more optimal method of doing this. But of course, Google Analytics keeps releasing new features and new front-end things, so we'll keep this in mind, and we'll see what would be the best time to do this.
Definitely. Great answer. So we have one last question here, and I'm just going to read it verbatim so we can all hear it and enjoy it. So 5 evangelists the jQuery team have. If you had a group of mini-me's, would you be able to win .NET awards and more effectively take over the world? And what requirements would need to be demonstrated to be eligible to become mini evangelists? And this is from Dr. Evil from Volcano headquarters in the Caribbean islands. What do you think?
We've had Rudolph and we've had Dr. Evil. This
Everybody's
is a great episode, I think. Well, it actually takes the journey to web analytics, to me, in all seriousness, it's actually easy to get started with web analytics, and the journey becomes tougher and harder as you go along, and you have to put more and more effort. But the fruits of your labor become better and better as you go in this journey. So you can indeed take over the world, hopefully not for evil purposes, but for good purposes.
And don't be evil.
Don't be evil. There are many good books out there. Read those books. And I love tons of blogs. If you go to my blog, and on the right-hand side, right-hand navigation at the bottom, I have my top 10 favorite web analytics blogs by practitioners, so check those out. Specifically for Google Analytics, actually, we have our GAIQ program where you can watch videos and review a lot of content, and then take the GAIQ test and become a certified sort of a Google Analytics person. But even if you don't actually get the certificate, go through the content. So between books, the GAIQ program, and the blogs, I really think that the knowledge is out there for each and every one of us to become a mini or a major evangelist of data. And indeed, I think that if I reframe your question, rather than sort of taking over the world, we can become superstars in our company and get promoted faster and help our companies make more ROI and take our power and use it for good. So
there you go.
So that's what I encourage you to do. So with that, we both Nick and I wish you a very happy holiday season. We'll see you in 2010. Please go to our moderator page and submit your questions about anything Google Analytics and anything Web Analytics. Have a happy new year.
Take care.